It's an endangered species of sheep. It was gestated in a regular sheep body, which actually raises an interesting biological problem. We have two kinds of DNA in our bodies. We have our nucleic DNA that everybody thinks of as our DNA, but we also have DNA in our mitochondria, which are the energy packets of the cell. That DNA is passed down through our mothers. So really what you end up having here is not a guar and not a mouflon, but a guar with cow mitochondria and therefore cow mitochondrial DNA, and a mouflon with another species of sheep's mitochondrial DNA. These are really hybrids, not pure animals. And it raises the question of how we're going to define animal species in the age of biotechnology, a question that we're not really sure yet how to solve. This lovely creature is an Asian cockroach, and what they've done here is they've put electrodes in its ganglia and its brain, and then a transmitter on top, and it's on a big computer tracking ball, and now using a joystick, they can send this creature around the lab and control whether it goes left or right, forward or backwards. They've created a kind of insect bot or bug bot. It gets worse than that, or perhaps better than that. This actually is one of DARPA's very important. DARPA is the Defense Research Agency, one of their projects. These Goliath beetles are wired in their wings. They have a computer chip strapped to their backs, and they can fly these creatures around the lab. They can make them go left, right. They can make them take off. They can't actually make them land. They put them about 1 inch above the ground, and then they shut everything off, and they go boom. But it's as close as they can get to a landing. And in fact, this technology has gotten so developed that this creature, this is a moth, this is the moth in its pupa stage, and that's when they put the wires in and they put the computer technology so that when the moth actually emerges as a moth, it is already pre-wired. The wires are already in its body, and they can just hook it up to their technology, and now they've got these bug bots that they can send out for surveillance. They can put little cameras on them, and perhaps someday delivering other kinds of ordnance to war zones. It's not just insects. This is the rat bot, or the robo-rat by Sanjeev Talwar at SUNY Downstate. Again, it's got technology, it's got electrodes going into its left and right hemispheres, it's got a camera on top of its head. The scientists can make this creature go left, right. They have it running through mazes, controlling where it's going. They've now created an organic robot. The graduate students in Sanjeev Talwar's lab said, is this ethical? We've taken away the autonomy of this animal. We'll get back to that in a minute. There's also been work done with monkeys. This is Miguel Nicolilis of Duke. He took owl monkeys, wired them up so that a computer watched their brains while they moved, especially looking at the movement of their right arm. The computer learned what the monkey brain did to move its arm in various ways. They then hooked it up to a prosthetic arm, which you see here in the picture, put the arm in another room. Pretty soon the computer learned, by reading the monkey's brain waves, to make that arm in the other room do whatever the monkey's arm did. Then he put a video monitor in the monkey's cage that showed the monkey this prosthetic arm, and the monkey got fascinated. The monkey recognized that whatever she did with her arm, this prosthetic arm would do. And eventually, she was moving it, and eventually stopped moving her right arm, and staring at the screen, could move the prosthetic arm in the other room only with her brain waves. Which means that monkey became the first primate in history of the world to have 3 independent functional arms. And it's not just technology that we're putting into animals. This is Thomas DeMars, the University of Florida. He took 20,000 and then 60,000 disaggregated rat neurons. So these are just individual neurons from rats. Put them on a chip. They self-aggregated into a network, became a integrated chip, and he used that as the IT piece of a mechanism which ran a flight simulator. So now we have organic computer chips made out of living self-aggregating neurons. Finally, Musa Avaldi of Northwestern took a completely intact, independent lamprey eel brain. This is a brain from a lamprey eel. It is living, fully intact brain in a nutrient medium with these electrodes going off to the sides, attached photosensitive sensors to the brain, put it into a cart. Here's the cart. The brain is sitting there in the middle. And using this brain as the sole processor for this cart, when you turn on a light and shine it at the cart moves towards the light. When you turn it off, it moves away. It's photophilic. So now we have a complete living lamprey eel brain. Is it thinking lamprey eel thoughts sitting there in its nutrient medium? I don't know. But in fact, it is a fully living brain that we have managed to keep alive to do our bidding. So, we are now at the stage where we are creating creatures for our own purposes. This is a mouse created by Charles Vacanti of University of Massachusetts. He altered this mouse so that it was genetically engineered to have skin that was less immunoreactive to human skin, put a polymer scaffolding of an ear under it, and created an ear that could then be taken off the mouse and transplanted onto a human being. Genetic engineering coupled with polymer physiotechnology coupled with xenotransplantation. This is where we are in this process. Finally, not that long ago, Craig Ventnor created the first artificial cell, where he took a cell, took a DNA synthesizer, which is a machine, created an artificial genome, put it in the cell and of a different cell. The genome was not of the cell he put it in. And that cell then reproduced as the other cell. In other words, that was the first creature in the history of the world that had a computer as its parent. It did not have an organic parent. And so, asked the economists, the first artificial organism and its consequences. So you may have thought that the creation of life was going to happen in something that looked like that. But in fact, that's not what Frankenstein's lab looks like. This is what Frankenstein's lab looks like. This is a DNA synthesizer, and here at the bottom are just bottles of A, T, C, and G, the 4 chemicals that make up our DNA chain. And so we need to ask ourselves some questions. For the first time in the history of this planet, we are able to directly design organisms. We can manipulate the plasms of life with unprecedented power. And it confers on us a responsibility. Is everything okay? Is it okay to manipulate and create whatever creatures we want? Do we have free reign to design animals? Do we get to go someday to Pets R Us and say, look, I want a dog. I'd like it to have the head of a dachshund, the body of a retriever, maybe some pink fur, and let's make it glow in the dark. Does industry get to create creatures who in their milk and their blood and their saliva and other bodily fluids create the drugs and industrial molecules we want, and then warehouse them as organic manufacturing machines? Do we get to create organic robots where we remove the autonomy from these animals and turn them just into our playthings? And then the final step of this, once we perfect these technologies in animals and we start using them in human beings, what are the ethical guidelines that we will use then? It's already happening. It's not science fiction. We are not only already using these things in animals, some of them we're already beginning to use on our own bodies. We are now taking control of our own evolution. We are directly designing the future of the species of this planet. It confers upon us an enormous responsibility that is not just the responsibility of the scientists and the ethicists who are thinking about it and writing about it now. It is the responsibility of everybody because it will determine what kind of planet and what kind of bodies we will have in the future. Thanks.